Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to the rugged wilderness of American Fork Canyon, located within the Uinta National Forest in Utah County, Utah. Known for its steep, craggy slopes and dense, pine-dotted forests, American Fork Canyon is a cherished destination for campers, hikers, and families seeking the solace and beauty of the high country. The canyon's geography is marked by winding trails, cascading mountain streams, and natural clearings that offer breathtaking views of the surrounding peaks. The climate here is distinctly mountainous. Summer days can be warm and sunlit, with cool, crisp nights, a reminder that even in the height of summer, temperatures can drop significantly. Occasional thunderstorms sweep through the canyon, and the high elevation ensures that weather can change rapidly. The flora of American Fork Canyon is as varied as its terrain. The forests are home to a mix of conifers and deciduous trees, while the understory is a mosaic of shrubs and berry-producing bushes. Ponderosa pine, Douglas fir, and quaking aspen stand tall over sagebrush, mountain mahogany, and snowberry bushes. Berries that grow here include wild strawberry, serviceberry, and currant berries, which bear fruit seasonally. Wildlife in American Fork Canyon is abundant. Alongside the deer, elk, and smaller animals like chipmunks and squirrels, black bears are among the most notable residents. Although bear sightings are not an everyday occurrence, their presence is a constant reminder of the untamed spirit of the high country. On June 17th, the day before Father's Day, 2007, 11-year-old Samuel Evan Ives was excited for a family trip he was about to enjoy. The friendly and kind boy loved playing with Legos and brought along a small set wherever he went. Samuel enjoyed watching history documentaries and National Geographic, but also enjoyed venturing into nature as much as possible. Samuel had come up with an idea to go on a family camping trip, so his mother, Rebecca, put him in charge of organizing it. Samuel's father, Kevin Francis, was unable to attend, but his stepfather, Tim Mulvey, was planning on being there, along with Samuel's 6-year-old brother, Jack. Samuel had persuaded his mother to purchase one of those huge multi-room tents and even help pack the car for the trip. The family had decided to camp in an undeveloped campsite near the Timpooneke campground area, a few miles south of Salt Lake City. When the day of their trip arrived, the family made their way up to the campground, passing the National Forest Rangers, who were driving down the mountain. As they passed, cordial waves and smiles were exchanged, but the rangers should have been doing much more than smiling and waving. Pulling into the campground, the family drove past the camp host, who had no idea of the events that occurred that morning. Before the twilight of dawn, around 4 a.m., Jake Francom and his friends were camping in Timpooneke campground a short distance away from the space reserved by Samuel's family. During the early morning hours, Jake was awakened by the sound of something brushing against the outside of his tent. Believing a member of his party camped in an adjacent tent was trying to scare him, Jake laid still, and he listened. Suddenly Jake was struck upside the head twice, and thought someone had kicked him through the tent wall. Waking his girlfriend, he led her out of the tent, just as the fabric walls of the tent were slashed to ribbons, as a big black bear tore through. Now realizing that the noise he had heard while in the tent was a bear, Jake and his girlfriend began to yell, which roused the other campers. Pelting the bear with rocks while firing a 9mm pistol into the air, the campers drove the bear away from their campsite, but not before it destroyed one of their tents. Now terrified that the bear would return if they went back to sleep, Jake and his fellow campers piled into their vehicles and drove down the canyon road until they were in cell coverage. Jake called his father and the police, who quickly converged on the campground. An interesting thing happened when Jake contacted Utah County Dispatch, who contacted the U.S. Forestry Service law enforcement ranger, Carolyn Gossie. The ranger informed Dispatch that she was off duty and had no babysitter for her children, so her response would be delayed. Instead of contacting the Forestry Service, Officer Gossi did nothing, causing a break in the chain of awareness about the bear that had raided the campsite. The Forestry Service would have informed the camp host of the threat the bear posed, and the campground would likely have been closed had Gossi performed the duties of her post. Once armed officers arrived at the campground, Jake and his companions returned to their campsite to find it ransacked. Their coolers had been bitten and scratched up. As Jake examined his tattered tent, he found his shredded pillow with a muddy bear paw imprinted right in the middle of it, letting him know that it was a bear that had swatted him in the head through the tent fabric. After reviewing the scene, wildlife officers set a trap, baited with bacon grease and pastries, hoping to snare the bear. A pack of tracking hounds was also brought in to follow the bear's track, but after a day of searching, the location of the bear remained a mystery. Believing the bear was likely out of the area and would not return, by the end of the day the rangers departed the campground, waving and smiling while passing Samuel and his family as they arrived. Shortly after pulling up at the campsite, Samuel and his family quickly set up their new tent and laid out their bedrolls. Now comfortable for the night, they cooked and ate dinner. Before laying down for the night, Samuel informed his mother that he was going to get up early to help cook breakfast and hurried them all to bed. Samuel retreated to his own attached bedroom of the tent, separated by a zipped wall for privacy. Now there was no way that Samuel and his family could have known that the bear that had attacked Jake a few hours before would return to the campsite that evening. With the benefit of the cover of dark, the big bear silently stalked through the campsite and examined the site for anything edible. At some point, the bear detected an intriguing aroma from Samuel's area of the tent. Perhaps the bear had smelled a single granola bar or Coke Zero stashed in Samuel's sleeping bag. Having learned how to gain entry to the tents during the attack on Jake, the bear neatly sliced a single opening into Samuel's portion of the tent. Timpooneke was sleeping in another area of the tent. He awoke to the sound of Samuel speaking the name of one of his friends. Believing he was talking in his sleep, Tim tried to go back to sleep before Samuel screamed out for help. Dashing from the tent, Tim peered into the darkness, trying to find Samuel. The darkness cloaked invaluable details, but after a few minutes he found the slice made in the tent wall and understood that Samuel was missing. Still oblivious to the bear's presence at their campsite, Tim and Rebecca examined the slice in the tent fabric. It appeared to be cut precisely, and they concluded that Samuel had been kidnapped and immediately contacted the police. After arriving at the campsite, police immediately closed the campground and began searching for Samuel. Tracking dogs were brought into the campsite for the second time in a day and soon turned up a foreboding clue as to Samuel's whereabouts. In the light of dawn, the dogs had discovered a trail of torn sleeping bag fabric leading away from the tent. Samuel's pants were found in the trail, and bloody bits of clothes turned up a little farther up the trail. As the dogs followed the scent trail, they eventually led to Samuel's corpse, about 400 yards away from the campsite. Having witnessed the horrible sight of Samuel's mutilated corpse, wildlife officers and Utah Highway Patrol officers began to scour the area in search of the bear. A police helicopter searched for the bear from the air, as the area was canvassed for the man-killing predator. By 11:40 a.m., the search effort met some success, as the bear was located. Armed officers quickly took positions and dispatched a bear, but was it the bear that killed Samuel? The 300-pound carcass was examined for evidence, and the bear's head and paws were sent to a crime lab to collect DNA evidence on them. The bear's DNA was taken for comparison to DNA from saliva left at the attack site. Upon locating Samuel's corpse, his family packed up and returned home. As she watched the news that evening, Rebecca learned of the bear attack on Jake for the first time. The death of her son took on a new and aggravating light. On Father's Day morning, Kevin Francis was awakened by a knock on his door. He was Samuel's biological father and cared for his son deeply. Officers informed him of his son's death and stoically handed him a pamphlet on grieving. They offered to arrange for a grief counselor, but Kevin refused their assistance. Every Father's Day for the rest of his life will now be a reminder of his son's death. Rebecca and Kevin got together and discussed how the federal rangers had dropped the ball on informing them about the dangerous bear. A lawsuit was filed, and they were awarded $1.9 million, but the policy changes they intended to see instituted were never employed. As for the bear's motivations behind its attack on Jake and Samuel, predation was at least a driving factor in its actions. It had likely been accustomed to finding food at the campsite, which would explain its comfort with the presence of human beings. There was no reported animal carcass nearby that it could have been protecting, and no cubs were reported near the attack site. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. Utah reportedly hosts a modest population of only 4,000 black bears over its nearly 85,000 square miles. This is a bear density of about 1 black bear for every 22 square miles. This figure is a deceptive number in that many bears are crowded into ideal habitats, leaving lesser habitats with lower populations. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. In a setting where families seek refuge in nature, what additional safety measures or educational programs could help ensure that campsites are secured against wildlife intrusions? With the increasing encroachment of recreational activities into bear habitats, are changes in bear behavior, such as increased boldness or habituation to human scents, making encounters more dangerous? The decision to destroy the bear following the attack reflects a challenging trade-off. How can wildlife management policies be refined to protect human life while also conserving the essential ecological roles that bears play in these environments? In retrospect, what practical steps, ranging from campsite selection to nighttime security protocols, could help families better safeguard themselves against potential wildlife encounters? The heartbreaking story of Samuel Evan Ives is a sobering reminder of the fine line between the wonder of nature and its potential dangers. As families continue to embrace the beauty of American Fork Canyon and similar wild spaces, his tragic fate underscores the importance of vigilance, preparedness, and ongoing education in bear country. I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comment section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We've slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.